Thank you for joining for Career Coffee with Adeel and myself, Evgeny Kim. So we're gonna do resume reviews again.
Okay.
This is a very hot topic. A lot of people looking help with getting resumes. And guys, if you are watching us through LinkedIn or on YouTube and you want to participate in that session, I posted the link to join to our live session, so you can join us, not just observer, not just to, but as an attendee, as a you can post your resume with us and we can review it. Anyway, we have few folks who joined, and we got few resumes to line up. Whoever joined very recently, please post your resume in that link and we'll take a look on that in a few moments. But right now we got the first candidate to review. Let me pull up that resume. Where is it? Okay, let me share my screen and we'll start a review. All right.
All right.
Yep. And we have a person who shared this resume with us to review. Maybe let me unmute and ask a few questions before we moving forward. Hey Olga, can you talk to us?
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Hi Olga. Nice meeting you. And we got your resume. Can you give a brief, like, your background? What you're targeting with this resume? What kind of positions you're looking for?
Well, I'm looking for both manual and automation position, with a manual experience of about 4 years and automation for about a year.
All right. Awesome. Great. Okay. Yeah. I would assume, right, from your title, software QA engineer. And let me skim really quick. Okay, it's 1-page resume, pretty decent. Education, master in graphic design. Wow. National Python certificate. By the way, you're able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Make it a little bit bigger.
I mean, overall, I think it's
I like
pretty
the
clean.
style.
Yeah.
Yep. I like the style. It's very easy to understand from the first glance,
Yeah.
right?
And I always say this, you look at your own resume so many times, you
Yeah.
kind of, it's hard to unsee things there. This one immediately, very inviting, very readable.
True.
Yeah.
And I like
you.
that you are pretty short in your summary, even you are not stated that it is a summary, but very clear, understand, like, okay, this person has 3 years of experience, and you've been working with some frameworks in automation.
Olga, I am curious, why did you write that line, open to roles in both manual and automated testing?
I was advised by somebody, I've changed my resume so many times, and one time somebody mentioned that you should mention somewhere in the resume what positions you're looking for. Because I use one resume for applying to manual or automation positions. I do not alter my resume for every position that I apply to.
Right.
So it was just a recommendation.
Yeah, it makes sense. But at the same time, what I'm seeing, this resume is will be fit for. There's no such a thing like manual and automation, right? There is engineering roles, and there is like for QA engineer for which is not 100% automation. Yes, this is resume fits to it, right? But if you're looking for and you want to emphasize your experience in automation, then I think that you need to have two separate resumes. One is that clearly stated that you are looking for QA automation engineering positions or as that role. But I'm not sure.
I don't know. I mean, they're very related. I think if you're in your resume, you're highlighting things that are, I mean, the word manual is a little loaded.
Mhm.
It can be a little loaded. But if you did, you know, if you're experienced, you know, you have one professional software QA experience in there, you're highlighting, you know, your functional testing, regression testing, and your automation. I think you can get away with just a single resume in this particular case. Just I just wanted to know about your motivation for writing that line. If your motivation for writing that line is, hey, please don't give me a very technical interview. Don't do coding interviews. Don't do really hard coding interviews. I think it just depends on your motivation. I mean, I wouldn't, you know, I don't have a strong recommendation there either way. It just seems like you're straddling both lines. If you do, you know, if you want to have two separate resumes highlighting the two things, that's okay. If you want to keep a single resume, I think that's okay too. In this particular case, for you particularly, I would just reconsider that line. I mean, having it is not a bad thing. The other thing is like how for how long have you had this resume format out, and are you getting callbacks from recruiters and hiring managers based on this resume? If you're already getting good feedback, then that line is not going to make you or break you.
Yeah, what is your experience right now with job searching?
Yes. So I've been actively applying for the past 3 weeks, probably around 1 month. And during this time, I've changed my resume several times. And this current format is about a week old. And overall, I haven't been getting a lot of feedback. So far, I haven't gotten a single interview yet, just one initial interview recently.
Yeah. And why do you think it's a combination of your resume, or do you think it's something else?
I think calls and invitations start from resume, right? I think something is wrong with my resume.
I mean, overall, I like your resume. That's the only thing, that line, like if I was to understanding, you know, it's really up to you how you want to take this feedback, but understanding what Evgeny was saying, if there is a very functional testing focused role, that line may be confusing. You know, somebody who's hiring for that may be like, hey, maybe this job is not a good fit for them. Somebody who's hiring for an automated role might look at it and be like, I'm not sure if they're ready for it. So I would just look at, I wouldn't you know, just week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks feedback. I wouldn't like overcompensate for it. I think your resume is pretty readable. Overall, I like it. That's the only line I would hint at. The other thing, moving down to the technical skills, one, you know, we've talked about this often, you know, sometimes I think I have a preference for overall just listing everything that you want listed there, as opposed to trying to group them, and then that can get very confusing.
Yeah.
The thing there is you have a lot of things, listed. Particularly, I would pay attention to things that are like acronyms. I don't know what AVD and ADB is.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Oh, ADB, is it a database tool? Like,
Yeah, so ADB and AVD are Android debugging. It's
Yeah.
Android debug bridge and virtual devices basically for mobile testing.
Oh yeah, ADB. Okay.
Okay. I would just stay away from acronyms, those two acronyms specifically. You have a little bit of Oracle, MySQL, HiDSQL. They're all databases, right? So you might want to just leave it at SQL.
Okay.
Might be a little repetitive. Again, this I don't feel strongly about one way or the other.
Yeah.
I like how you have your technical skills listed. So don't overcompensate based on this feedback. Microsoft 365 is probably something you do not need there. You don't since you don't have yeah, I wouldn't list that there. Corel Draw, Adobe Photoshop, Canva. I'm not sure they're very relevant here for software QA engineer positions. You can highlight them. I know lower, you are a graphic designer by education, so it's okay to leave them in your history, but I would just remove them from your technical skills.
Yeah. And again, like, hold on. Overall, like the impression of your resume, it looks pretty neat. And those are little tweaks, those are little tweaks to make your resume just look nicer, right? But will they be like heavy based, how to say, will the recruiters or hiring managers making decisions based on that? Probably not really, right? Like, but those will help you to look more professional, probably.
And it's just about real estate, the real estate,
Sure.
the higher up you are, that's the more valuable real estate. You want to highlight things that are really, really valuable there. Is something, and that's just an example of it.
Yeah.
Mm.
And another
Got
thing, like, I would try avoid this words like result driven. So like self, when you trying to express yourself, like I am motivated, like these fluff words right now, they doesn't look, I mean, we already assume that you are result driven. We already assume that you are motivated and team player and like, paying attention to details and all these things, right? They are all passion for delivery excellence. We already assume that you have these skills, right? Again, I said it before, right? Nobody wants a person who is not result driven or who is not passion for delivery experience, right? Or who's so try to avoid this and make other people, instead of saying that, showing in your work history, right? Valuable is that you stated like I have 3 years of experience in software quality assurance. So you don't need to, calculate your dates to figure out how many years you have of experience.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
The only thing that stands out for me is like you are QA engineer, and in the first like bullets and the first technical skills and summary, you trying to show off your test automation skills, right? And I'm like, oh no, it's like, okay, looks like you have an experience in those in these technologies.
Yeah, you want to be, that is an excellent point, right? Technical skills are kind of easy way for recruiters to like quickly see certain tools are mentioned, but what you want to do then, you do want to highlight how you've used them in your work experience.
Right.
That paints a more vivid picture, right? For example, you have something listed there, but you know, if the person reading it is not sure, you know, that may be something they're really looking strongly for, and they don't see it, that might leave them just too many open questions.
Yeah. Again, like I more prefer if you want to state and you want to search for jobs with a test automation, more focused positions,
Mhm.
I would have separate resume. And then, yes, this resume should be like, I'm a test automation engineer or QA automation engineer, and you list it like in the right direction, right? But here you listed like, I'm a QA engineer, which in most companies, it's more like functional testing. With some,
Just depends.
it depends, but
The titles are very,
this is observation from like working with several companies, right?
right. And that's where your experience paints that picture, because your title could be misleading.
Yes. So yeah, and maybe like in this resume, software QA engineer, I would like more highlighted that you are professionally have experience in functional API, like backend, like full stack QA engineer, and also stated like how, and I was doing the automation as well. Like I was contributing in there, like by writing tests, scripts, by contributing that.
The on your work experience, you're doing your first bullet point is probably doing too much. You may want to just break that apart into two. You're highlighting, you're trying to tell us, or you're trying to tell the person reviewing your reading your resume that it was an e-commerce site, but it probably has too much happening. You can probably just break that apart into 2 bullet points. I would also suggest that, you know, something you've written here is perform manual API testing. That one is interesting because obviously if you didn't automate your API tests, you didn't do it. But highlighting that they were manual again, it's
more
it can be
questions.
misinterpreted. Yeah, more questions. It could be misinterpreted in that way. And this is as an example here, right? In your technical skills, you had listed Oracle, MySQL, Heidi SQL, but your the sort of the work you did database to verify and validate data, it's a very, you know, it's very small. Usually if somebody's looking for a QA engineer,
Right.
Automation or not, who's focused on backend, they want to see strong SQL skills. And that's a opportunity, you know, your opportunity in the work history to highlight that.
The only thing that like not kind of bothers me, but in your history, you don't really describe what kind of business, what is SoftPro Quest is doing, right?
Mhm.
It's like, oh, I've been testing, but and automating, but no, I don't understand like what is the company?
Yeah.
Like what is about? Like,
Yeah.
what kind of business
And
solutions?
I
they
feel what's
were-
happening here is like it's being smushed in that first bullet point as opposed to just highlighting and talking about the project or the company you were
right.
with. I think that's really important, especially if it's even if it's a very well-known big tech company. You want to highlight still what did you do there, because
Even
that
the
big tech
yeah,
company,
exactly,
they're like doing
exactly.
500 things. You want to highlight that thing.
Right.
And then if you are not, then you just in general want to paint a picture. And the reason being is that if somebody's looking, you know, somebody doesn't know about that particular company, but their company is similar, or they have seen success from people
Right.
from that industry come and work at their company, that's just gonna be a, you know, it's gonna put you in a positive light. You're more likely to get a call back.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe can you describe like in a couple sentences what is software Quest is, like what kind of product they were building.
Yeah, so it's a startup company, and they do, well, both web and mobile testing for other companies, basically.
Brilliant. So in that way, you want to highlight if that's what the company does, you want to highlight which projects you were on for the duration there. Obviously, if you were on like 10, it's hard. It's that may be a little bit harder. Hopefully you were not. Hopefully you were on one or two, and then you can provide that context to people who are reviewing your resume.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I think this is one big part why you probably don't get replies back, because like it's very hard to understand what you actually was doing there, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's testing. It's like
Yeah.
daily duty for all testers.
Yeah.
But what kind of business solutions you were working on, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it e-commerce? And even just stating e-commerce is not really enough. You don't need to disclose the company name.
Yeah, if you sign an NDA
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something,
yeah.
that's perfectly okay.
But you need to describe really clear, like, oh, you can show, like,
Mhm.
let's say not Amazon look like, but it is a e-commerce in this niche, like in the medical industry or in the food-based plant, like
Yeah, like I mean, if
yeah,
you can talk about, like, you may not be able to say your client was Amazon, but you can
yeah,
talk about that it was X, Y, and Z.
yeah. If it's
thing that was
Amazon,
in the
you can
project.
say like a well-known e-commerce like
Yeah.
web-based
Yeah.
project, and I've been working on such and such things there.
Ultimately, I think you can do a little bit better job of storytelling, make it a little bit
Right.
easier for people who are reviewing your resume. Because what's happening is, most QA engineering positions, when they open, they might get 300,000 resumes first week, right? They're shifting. Give them a reason to give you a call back. Use this space. I think this is where your biggest opportunity is, to tell a little bit of story. So people can easily make a determination, be like, yes,
Right.
This person stands out. This person has a good chance of success in this role. Let me call them back.
Yep, yep.
The other thing I would say is in your education, since you got some sort of certificates, and your masters, just highlight where did you get them from. That will round out that section. But overall, I think
Yeah, overall,
pretty good.
I like the styling of resume is just a little bit tweaks with the content, right? Like, totally 100% agree. This resume needs more appealing on the storytelling, like not just, oh, I've been testing and automating, but what kind of product, like what kind of team. This story is more I would be interested in the first place. And then, okay, then you were working on this project and how you was testing it. That's the next step. Is it helpful?
Yes, thank you so much, guys. I'll work on it.
All right. Thank you very much. And yeah, good luck with the job search. I clearly understand it's not that easy thing right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we have another person joined as well. Let me check if we have a resume here. Few seconds, guys. Nope.
You're in the wrong one.
Let me double check. No. Nope. I see Rose joined. arrows, let me allow you to talk if you want. Do you want to share your resume with us? Or just watching?
You have some more resumes, right?
Yeah, we have another resume. Okay. Again, like if you were whoever want to share your resume, just post it in the link that we posted earlier in the chat. Meanwhile, let me open another resume. Okay. Okay, this guy. Yeah. Okay, we have SRE, site reliability engineer. That's something interesting. We didn't have that much.
Very formatting is pretty standard here,
Mhm.
which is very, very nice to see, obviously. When you have, this much really strong sort of experience for this long, it's just good to be pretty vanilla.
Mhm.
I feel like that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing at all, because you have a lot of content there, so that can just speak for itself. I think the other one, it was kind of not highlighted, so but do love to see like those links on the top. GitHub, portfolio, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And for those maybe watching first time, it's beautiful because this way it's not taking a lot of real estate when you make that list flat. See,
Mhm.
some people want to go more
In a
vertical,
column. Mhm.
and you're just you have dead white space on the right, you're just losing it. And
Right.
and they got it all fit in like a single page, which is fantastic.
Very well organized. Very well organized.
I think also what's really effective here for people to pick up on is like the sort of like the impact statements here. Optimized by 90% P0 incident response rate. At every position they've found something to show their impact that they're having. Not just I think that's the sort of balance people
Mhm.
want to at times people want to list just their responsibilities,
Mhm.
which is some of it is going to be just assumed. So taking the opportunity to highlight the impact is really, really powerful. I always say, if you do put in those impact statements in your resume, expect somebody's going to ask you about it. So be sure to explain, talk about it in detail. The worst thing you want to do is have an impact like optimized by 90% P0 incident response rate, and then you don't remember details. Could be a lost opportunity. But I love those things being highlighted here.
Dude, that's this resume. I mean,
Very good, excellent resume.
from Google's, he was working at Google since 2017
Mhm.
and up to present days. Impressive.
Yeah.
I
Res-
think this resume, I mean, obviously, like when you work at such companies, right? Then it works towards you. It's definitely much more easier with such names on your resume to grab an attention, right? And be more more forgiving in terms of like whatever.
yeah. I mean, totally. I think that's it's always part of it.
Right.
Obviously, when you're going for SRE type positions, highlighting certifications is really important. I love that they did that. you see here like the difference, right? The previous candidate was
Mhm.
talking about, they've done like 1 year of like coding,
All right.
right? And they had Python listed, they had JavaScript listed, they had HTML listed, they had CSS listed, and you see this one, they've just listed Python.
Yep.
Right. I mean, part of it is that privilege, having an experience at a big tech company for a long time, but that's just simple. It's beautiful. Highlighting certifications, putting in skills. Pretty effective. I don't always say this, and their resume is pretty compact, so no negative here, but highlighting Microsoft Suite and Smart Sheets are probably something they can drop. Jira, Confluence, Metabase, they can probably drop all of that and maybe reclaim that one line to highlight something else somewhere else.
So this resume gives me impression like, well, I was focusing on working on AWS, Terraform, Kubernetes, right? Like on those things, but I'm really good at it. Compared to when you try to push as much more keywords, that actually may play against you. Unless if you're actually really good at all skills that you listed there, right?
Yeah.
Be very mindful about it.
I also I think this is part where you see this a lot more in like, I think maybe this is something they've just kept in their resume when they got their first job as an intern. But if you are a recent grad, you want to highlight your projects.
Right.
I'm not sure they need to do this in this instance. They can take this information and highlight it elsewhere, but in this instance, it works. I don't think, because they've kept everything so compact, I think like in general, I would say, don't do this. But in this instance, I think it's this one, it actually works. They're highlighting not just their day-to-day responsibilities, but big projects that they've taken on at work and completed them and delivered them. These are also great, fantastic, because for them, this becomes, when you're actually in your interview, right? This is always recommend people, when you're going into your interview, have a cheat sheet, right? Have a cheat sheet of like high impact projects. They already have that cheat sheet built into their resume, whether it's for them or the people who are interviewing them. They already have that cheat sheet built in. Like if I was, if I was a company looking to build out blue-green deployments, and I saw this and I would be instantly like, let me talk to this person.
Yep.
It's highlighted very clearly. They have like a cheat sheet there.
One thing I would update it here is definitely a font. Like this looks Times New Roman, pretty outdated, but
yeah,
it's not a big
Good
deal.
preference. I think they're gonna get callbacks regardless.
Yeah, regardless, for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that resume was pretty easy. Stop share. Let me open another one. Second, guys. Okay, we have this one.
One more.
Yep, we have actually a couple more resumes, but let's review one more. I need to do some tweaks.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
All right, let me share my screen again. All right. Also QA engineer.
Yeah, you see like I don't think they need to mention technical skills and technical tools. They can just write skills and tools. It's for a software engineer position or QA engineer position. I think that's understood. It's technical,
Mhm.
but I see like right away, in the technical tools, what are the things that are taking like real estate are Microsoft Office suites and Google Work Suite. Obviously, so always rank things like top to bottom.
Mhm.
You want the highest importance things at the top, and if you're going
Sure.
left to right, you want the highest important things in the left.
Yep.
And it's a lost opportunity. I think, Evgeny, you may be in the minority. Maybe Times New Roman is making a comeback.
Maybe. I don't know, but this font drives me crazy, to be honest. I'm like, oh my.
Overall, pretty readable still. Yeah, if oh yeah, and I forget in the I think yeah, it's just it's just better to have a font that's not very pointy for most of your things, other than checking out the latest like from design systems, what's happening, take inspiration from that, especially if you are somebody who is web front end focused, regardless of what the position is.
Yep.
I also like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I think you engineers need to like roll that back a little bit, unless you're really willing to talk very deeply about
Yep.
CSS.
Yep.
I also love, if sounds to me, I mean, don't know the details about the companies they've been at, but the companies they've been at, they have like medical tech kind of experience. It looks like that way, and they've highlighted that, which is always a great thing, because then you are more likely for those positions where that is required or that is preferred. It's very easy for them to pick up on that. I think in technical skills, there's a lot of repetition. So I think there isn't a lot of interesting information there. So they can probably revisit that and probably maybe even just eliminate it altogether. Test reporting and documentation, functional and non-functional testing, manual automation, requirement analysis and interpretation. I think these are things that are somebody with a fair amount of experience. Most of these things are a given anyway. Better off highlighting it from a tool perspective. For example, they've written performance testing, but they haven't, in their tools, they haven't talked about a particular performance testing framework or tool that they used.
Right.
So I think there are they can just get rid of technical skills and just highlight the tools. Might be better off here in this case.
I really suggest to check the previous resume reviews with James Buck.
Mhm.
And he has very strong feelings about like stated manual and manual testing and automation testing.
Yeah.
And I'm also agree with him, like, try, I mean,
The word is loaded.
very loaded. Yeah.
Try to avoid it.
Some people okay with that. Some people really not okay with that. Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about, right?
Well, moving on to the experience side. Let's see here. So like the first one, right? We're trying to, you have something like, if you were just glancing over it, you would think there's some impact here, resulting in 25 improvement across the ASDLC. Again, talking about real estate, right? Analyze business requirement and user stories. That whole line is probably just confusing to people who are reading it. I'm sure there's a very good 3-minute explanation
Mhm.
that this person can provide, and that can clear those things up, but don't have 3 minutes, and you've just used prime real estate for a statement that's not very impactful, but it's disguised as it's impactful,
Mhm.
right? 25% across the SDLC.
Yeah, this thing with the measurement of your impact. This is, I think this is a tough one because a lot of hiring managers that I hear, they want to see that, right, in their resume.
Yes, exactly.
But like,
I do want to, I mean, as a whether hiring manager, I do want to see it,
right,
but it has to be, it has to
meaningful.
make sense. Because if it doesn't make sense, then what you're opening up yourself is you're letting the other person make interpretations about you, resulting in 25% improve across the SDLC. There are 15 different things that could mean. That could mean like the overall lead
Right,
time was
right.
reduced, time to market was improved. Like those are metrics that make sense, but 25% improvement across SDLC is.
So what do you mean, right?
What do you mean? Like
Yeah,
it's a, I'm sure there's a good
explanation.
explanation in their mind, but for me, it might be that might be my, like, that's who I am, right? That might be my interpretation, but somebody else's interpretation might be they just put a random number there, right?
Yeah.
25
How
is
do
a
you
pretty,
measure, right? Like,
a pretty sort of, like a quarter is a pretty
Quarter.
standard kind of number. You just put it there, and then subconsciously you're biased reading the rest of your
Right,
resume.
right.
You're like
you do
wondering,
judgment here, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're reading
Yeah.
the resume and it's leading to a judgment, well, it's like shooting in the foot,
Mhm.
right?
Like as an example, right? You talk about improving release times by 30%. Like that's impactful, right? 25 improvement across SDLC is not. But then those two numbers are also conflicting with each other, right? Is it
Mhm.
25% or is it 30%? And
Is though, I mean, are those 30% is included in this 25%? Like, where's the math here?
where's the math? The math is not, the math is no longer adding up. Yeah, I think they're on the right path. Like I think their motivation is good.
Mhm.
It's just that that impact is missing a little bit there.
Yeah,
It's just, it's a little, they need to calibrate
right,
what they're doing a little bit better. And this is what they're doing, they're trying to get feedback, which
Right.
is great.
Yep.
And this is the other thing I always say to people, right? It's easy to fall in love with your resume. You're going to see your resume so much. You're not going to be able to look at it critically. Like even last week, we were talking about that.
even ourselves,
Even
right?
ourselves, especially.
Same-
I mean,
same thing.
I know because
We sent to each other resume. Hey, Adeel, I
Exactly.
haven't watched my resume.
yeah.
Same thing.
So show it to, this just seems like it's a very early draft to me.
Right.
Show it to other people in your network. As an example, like strategize is used twice here. Those are things that other people can like immediately help out with. So reach out to your network, people you trust, people you
Right.
respect, or definitely getting feedback from us is a good first step. They're
Also-
being open to it. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. Also, folks, put your resume in the, I mean, have you been in the crushing interview in the game? In the game, there is an activity when you have to post your resume and other people will give you a feedback, right? You will get like maybe 2 feedbacks,
Mhm.
and that will be very helpful. And we have some people there, like directors of engineering, who
Yeah.
review there. So very valuable thing.
Awesome.
Yep.
Hey, maybe we should move over to another resume. Somebody
Yeah.
just
Somebody just
set in.
all right. Overall, yep.
Yeah, play with the font a little bit.
Play with them. Yeah, play with them.
Seems like an early draft, but I think that, their heart is in the right place.
All right. Let me open this. Okay, resume QA, another QA resume, right? Sounds good. Let me
See, you're
share.
losing today. Everybody's going, people are going to Times New Roman.
Times New Roman.
That's the new way. The classics are back.
All right.
Yeah.
Or someone's promoting this one. Okay.
So immediately, check out the other resumes we reviewed.
Yep.
That at the top, taking way too much real estate, talking about links and whatnot. There's definitely a better way to represent that.
We have 2-page resume. But
I think probably there's a lot of white space, a lot of fluff here. They can definitely get it down to a 1-page resume. Doesn't have to be like,
Yep.
there isn't a big rule of thumb. They mentioned they've been doing this for 5+ years. Makes sense. But I think there may be an opportunity here to condense this resume, take some of the other formats as inspiration to get it down to 1 page or maybe 1.5 even.
so all 3 QA engineering resumes, they have one thing in common.
Mhm.
All of them, they just to the testing, what they've been doing. But in the previous resume, I also
Yeah.
didn't see like the description of like what kind of project, what is the
Mhm.
business impact they were doing there, right? Like,
Yeah.
is it the e-commerce? Is it software as a service? Is it like agile?
Yeah.
What is the industry, right? This is very important.
Yeah,
This
I
is very
think
important.
it's very important because it sets the stage, tells the story.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I would definitely highlight those things. Acronyms again are very, very interesting. ATDD,
Where?
ATDD based acceptance test, data driven
Oh, this one.
based UAT. I don't know what that.
Me neither.
I think I have an idea what that acronym might mean. So be careful with your acronyms. Make sure they're like really, really well understood acronyms if you're going to put them, like SDLC or GUI, graphical user interface, in general, or even UAT in general. Try to avoid them, but if you do put them in there, make sure they're like very, very well-known acronyms. Because they make the person pause for the wrong reason.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yep. And same thing, like, yeah, it's always we're trying to impress, right? Like with these words, well versed, first in agile, like it's unnecessary.
Also, very interesting here that they have, their technical skills. A lot of redundant kind of information here that they can probably, like Notepad++, like, is that really
The skill. MS Office, Google Drive.
MS Office,
Yeah, technical skill definitely needs to revisit, revision, because first of all, a lot of like unnecessary stuff, and you don't use the real estate wisely. There's a lot of white spaces. Yeah, it has an impression that you're trying to fill with a like, it's like a filler, right?
Yeah, it's definitely filler, and this is primary real estate is the point. The other thing, kind of, rather than saying putting an OS section, Windows, Mac OS, right? If you're highlighting iOS and Android, it's better to highlight what tools, it's better to highlight things about if you did mobile development or mobile testing. It's better to highlight the tools that are related to it, which I don't think just at a preliminary glance, I don't see them. Yeah, I don't see them. Programming languages, XPath, XML. Yeah, a lot of fluff here that you can clarify, which again, you can reclaim that real estate to make your resume shorter and make it easier for somebody to review resume and call you back. Same thing with like IDE. Just I'm sure I can probably go on and on about it. And now we're almost at the end of one page. And, you know, big opportunity lost here.
We're just reading the work experience right now. This is probably acceptance test and driven developer, ATD. Is it?
Oh,
AT
acceptance test driven developer. Okay. First time I've
Okay.
heard of the term, but it's better here, as if that was your role, it's better highlighted here as that thing as opposed to an acronym
Right.
higher up.
Champion the development automated system using Playwright.
I'm not sure, you know, just be careful of those impact kind of adjectives, adverbs, verbs.
Mhm.
Championed, I'm not sure
They
it's
have,
conveying the right thing. Like, I'm not sure what championing means. Like,
Yeah.
there's championing from like
what do you mean?
the sidelines. There is taking this, putting together, you know, developing this framework, proposing and developing this framework. Those are two different.
Yeah, it's very
things.
similar to like the previous feedback, right? Like when you do not try impress with adjectives, right? Like it's very similar to that, right? Like season, what was there? I don't know.
I think in the other job description, robust.
Yeah, yeah. So when you're trying to, it's like bragging.
Yeah.
Or like expert.
Yeah, proficiently conducted a
yeah.
spectrum of testing methodologies.
It doesn't
Um,
help. Well, basically,
yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say, right?
The interesting thing here is because there's such an emphasis on what's the right, trying to paint a picture here, championing the development of automated tests. You've actually pushed something that was much more impactful to the end of that sentence,
Mhm.
which is reduction of 20 hours of manual testing. So I would reword that as a sort of like an impact thing that this person's had. Again, because they use something like champion, I'm not sure if they actually developed the framework themselves, they proposed the framework, and what their what the part they played in there. That's the number one thing, like I notice when I talk to, you know, when I'm doing resume reviews or somebody asks me for feedback on resume, it's because they look at those words themselves so much, they kind of they forget that they're not painting the right picture. In this case, they may be the only developer on the team who help do all of these, especially like, you know, automation, reduction 20, and that just doesn't come through. Or they could have been a big team and they were on the sidelines for some of these things. And just doesn't tell the reader what's going on.
What is confusing though,
Mhm.
are you working at the two places at the same time, right? Like present,
Oh yeah.
software QA automation. Because I
It's-
was curious, what was your transition like? Are you a developer here and you're going back to destination junior position?
yeah, this also, I mean,
No,
careful of this is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
typo, definitely.
it's not, I mean,
It's
yeah,
a typo. They
I think
probably
it's
meant to
typo,
say
yeah.
2020 to
Something.
2023. The other thing is, if you're gonna, I mean, you should put in your work experience, you should put a range, put a month as well. Don't leave it as, that's a tip for everybody.
Yeah,
Don't leave it as just a year.
yeah. I assume that was
That was
on
the case,
purpose,
right?
yeah. That was on purpose probably here, for showing us her resume.
Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think overall, they have good experience. How they're telling their story needs work for sure. Formatting here needs work, and just a lot of just delete. Sometimes it's better to be concise than too verbose.
Yeah, but I have a question, right? Like if that would be an interview. Well, you've been as a developer and task-driven developer, and then you took a QA automation engineering course. Like what was the behind the motivation of that, right? Because it looks like to me you already here a QA automation engineer.
Mhm.
Why you need another course, or what is the motivation, right? Like, so
Yeah.
it's confusing.
One before we wrap up today, this was something on my mind.
Mhm.
This is, somebody reached out to me for help and I was trying to give them some advice. What happens when your title does not reflect the role you're playing? Right? As an example, this is a very good example of that, right? Acceptance test driven developer is probably a term that only makes sense at that company.
Yeah,
Right? It's only and now, but your resume, you're presenting it as, you're looking for jobs in a bigger market, right? What do you think, like here, could they put this as their title and maybe in brackets, um, in parentheses, put that they were working as a QA automation engineer or as that?
yeah.
How do you feel about that? What would you say to this group? Because I think personally, I think that is okay.
For sure.
In because it paints a better picture. You're not trying to be what I mean, I guess what all of us are thinking is when we're putting those kind of resumes and we have titles that don't reflect the role really well in the larger market, is we're afraid that we don't want to misrepresent. We don't want somebody to say like later down in the interview process, they're doing a background check. Well, actually, you were an acceptance test driven developer and not a QA automation engineer. So you know what? Is that a real fear, real thing? What is your suggestion there?
Yeah, I think that this is exactly what happening, right? Like when companies gives weird titles,
Creative.
creative. Okay, let's put it this way, right? Like I have a friend here. He's a software engineer, but his title is like technical member. Technical member.
Technical member.
Yeah, what does
Lovely.
it mean? Like seriously.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't want to. I want to meet the non-technical members.
yes, exactly. Right. Like, tell me more about that. So here is the same thing, right? Just put it because this is a resume is basically your advertisement.
Mhm.
Make it crystal clear what are you doing there. We have no idea what this acceptance test driven developer full words title does mean, right?
Mhm.
For example,
Because I always look at when somebody in your resume or somewhere else, when I see title, I see role.
yeah,
Right? When I think of title, I see title / role.
yeah,
And if your title does not reflect your role, it's okay to use more standard industry terms to reflect that role, in my opinion.
right, right. Also very important, like what positions you are targeting as well, right? Like does your title align to those positions? So for example, I mean, this
Yeah.
looks like pretty nothing weird. Everything is fine. It looks like you are targeting for QA automation engineer position.
Going back to that point, what would you recommend to this particular person?
To
Would you recommend leaving acceptance driven developer, leaving the
Change it.
title there,
Change it.
or just
Change it
to the right role, the industry standard?
Yes.
Okay.
If you've been a developer there, just state it software developer in tests. If you've been and based on the description, that's what it's actually software engineer test or as that role, right? Like
Mhm.
it more like looks like it rather than the rest. All right, I think that should help. Um, Times New Roman, guys, come on, folks.
It's making a comeback. You heard it here today.
Okay.
Cool, awesome.
Yeah.
Should we?
I think we should be good.
Should be good.
Yeah, let me double check. I think that was the last resume, right?
Yeah.
Alrighty, then we should be good for today, and join us next Saturday. We're gonna have mock interview with Liana. She's
Okay.
a senior director of engineering in QA.
Mhm.
Yeah, prepare yourself.
Where do people? They just
Same
crushing interview.
crushinginterview.com. Yeah, go there. I posted the event there.
Mhm.
Same thing, first come, first serve. Just show up, raise your hand, prepare your resume, prepare your tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
And be ready to answer everything which is you stated in your resume as well.
Yeah. A fun one, and then we have some more special guests the week after as well. So
Yeah, tell us.
fantastic.
Yeah. Keep us keep in touch with us, guys, folks. All right. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you very much for joining and have a good rest of your long weekend. Bye bye.